These last 50 years have not been easy for Bangladesh. The nation was born out of war. It was suppressed under military rule, but none of it could diminish the flame of democracy. As Bangladesh marks 5 decades of nationhood, we've prepared a report card of sorts. And at the outset, let me say this, it's an impressive one. First, we'll talk about the democratic experiment. In 1991, military rule ended and democracy returned to Bangladesh. There was a brief hiccup in 2006 when a caretaker government took control. It was later supported by the military. There was one question on everyone's minds. Would Bangladesh go the Pakistan way? It didn't. 2 years later, the caretaker government held elections. Democracy was back. 2 more general elections followed. The army continues to be powerful, but they operate as allies of the government. There isn't fear that a military coup is just around the corner. And that's crucial for Bangladesh, for any country for that matter, because another military takeover would reverse the gains of the last 3 decades. What about religion? The separation of state and religion is the hallmark of modern nation states. Bangladesh is an interesting case. The constitution designates Islam as state religion. At the same time, it guarantees secularism and freedom of religion. That's the law of the land. But how is it implemented on the ground? Well, we do get reports of attacks on minorities, of Hindu temples being vandalized, but the government has been quick to set the record straight. In May 2018, Sheikh Hasina said secularism is the way forward for Bangladesh. In 2020, she vowed to crack down on anarchy in the name of religion. So the Prime Minister is saying all the right things. Muslims, you must know, make up 90% of Bangladesh's population. The country does have a stake in global Islam. But it does not define itself by that. Dhaka maintains close ties with most Islamic nations, but it stays away from the power politics of the Islamic world. Its leaders do not want to be caliphs or sultans, but they've done more for Muslims than countries with such ambitions. When 700,000 Rohingya Muslims were purged from Myanmar, it was Bangladesh that came to their rescue, not the so-called leaders of the Muslim world. The Cox's Bazar refugee camp is run by the Bangladesh government. It is the largest refugee camp in the world. Almost 600,000 people still live there. Remember, we are not talking about a rich world power here. Bangladesh has its issues, its own citizens to feed. And think of the irony here. A self-sufficient superpower is turning migrants back at its southern border. We're talking about the United States. An economy that is 175 times bigger than Bangladesh. It's a telling story. Which brings us to Bangladesh's biggest achievement, its economy. Bangladesh is classified as a developing economy, the 30th biggest in the world. And it is unexplored territory for producers. The Bangladeshi consumers are taking baby steps into the middle class. So in a couple of years, it could be the toast of foreign brands. In the meanwhile, Bangladesh has become the world's boutique. Its garment industry has exploded in the last 2 decades. It contributes 20% to the country's GDP and makes up 80% of total exports. The target was to hit $50 billion in exports by 2021, but the pandemic saw to that. Bangladesh is the second largest garment exporter in the world after China. All big Western brands source their clothes from here. But there is a downside to this. Sometimes factories are in reality sweatshops. Working conditions can be appalling and child labor is common. It's something that the government will have to work on going forward. But garments, we must tell you, are not Bangladesh's biggest export. It's an idea, an economic idea. It's called Microfinance. It is a banking service that targets small businesses and low-income individuals, basically people who will not get a loan from a big bank. From the 1970s, microfinance has grown in Bangladesh. It has lifted 2.5 million people out of poverty. Today, it covers 32 million members and gives out $7.2 billion annually. Leading this campaign is a Grameen Bank. It has more than 9 million borrowers. 97% of them are women. Microfinance in Bangladesh is a success story, one that many other countries have been inspired by. So in 5 decades, Bangladesh has been through more than most countries in the world: a war, a military dictatorship, a migrant crisis, and now a pandemic. And it has emerged stronger from each of these crises. Is it perfect? No, it isn't. But then again, which country is? WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.